Welcome, everybody, to tonight's INE Network broadcast. My name is Lou Jensen, and this is the weekly gathering. We've been getting together for 8 years as a network talking about the marketplace. We're a circle around a company called Profitable Hobbies, and the owner of the company is here tonight. Tam Marie's here with us, and we'll get to her and bring her up here in a minute. And we can see that computer screen a little better. And we've all got equipment that are related to some kind of a hobby that we're trying to turn into a business. And we've been at it for a number of years. The company was formed in 1983. We've sold over 30,000 systems worldwide, and so it's kind of a process from amateur to the master of something is what we've been going after. We've done 3 shows on pricing issues. We've done 5 shows on upscale marketing. And now this is the 3rd and final show about personal branding, which are business marketing concepts that help improve your efficiency in the marketplace. As we get started tonight, the first show was the theory of the branding. The second show was beginning to build the brand. And tonight we're going to talk about some personal usage tactics, things that you can do to start getting it going. And I wanted to just stop for a second, have each of you in the film strip introduce yourself and give everybody just your first gut reaction of what you think you're getting on this personal branding thing. It's a very subtle concept, and it's not easy to identify ourselves with a personal brand. So let's start with Debbie.
Hi, I'm Debbie Kornman, and I'm from Boiling Springs, Pennsylvania. And since I've been with the INE Network, I came to understand that your name is also is more important than trying to have a clever title for your artwork. That became apparent this past weekend. There was a gentleman I ran into from New York in Virginia, and when I introduced myself, he says, "Oh yeah, you're the famous painter." So, so just by hearing my name, he said, "Oh, you're the famous painter," and I said, "Well, yeah, I do painting. Yes, I do." So,
That's awesome.
so we're going from New York, Virginia to Pennsylvania. So, I do get a lot out of understanding and using my name out there as the brand.
Next, it'll be Rome, Italy, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, Deb. Ed, you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ed Abels. I'm from Casa Grande, Arizona, and still being newer to the group and everything. To me, personal branding is you represent your. I mean, of course, you want your name to be represented, but I think it's your selection and your specific things that you do, such as I may be trying to go after just a particular market in sandblasting, and so I do particular artwork that way, whereas other people do maybe gun stocks and pistol clips. So to me, that kind of represents what I'm getting out of it as far as personal branding. It's more or less what your specialty is and how you go about representing not only yourself as a studio, but also how you promote your studio and your marketing ideas and
The
stuff.
growing of the concept. Good boy.
Right.
Attaboy,
Exactly.
Jay?
Good evening. I'm Jay Richardson from, I guess tonight would be stormy Western Oklahoma. For me, it's what people know you by and how they know you. Some people know me as by my name. Some people know me by my logo. Some people know me by the fact that I'm a motorcycle engraver. So it's how people connect you with what you do.
Yes. And remember you in the process.
Yes.
Okay, good boy. Joni Beck. I introduced you, so turn your mic on, dear.
Well, come on.
You got it.
I'm trying. I'm off here. Am I on it?
Yeah, you're on.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I'm Joni Beck, and I'm from Long Island, New York. Went to school in Maine, and I've lived down in Florida since the 50s, 51, I think it was. And I've been in, I met Lou Jensen way back in the early 80s, 83, 84, 85, somewhere in there. And I've been working right along with him in that respect, learning how to do the carvings, and I really do enjoy it. Now, as far as my branding is concerned, it seems that I'm known as, that's the lady with the eggs.
Okay.
And my name, they do know my name, in the small town that I live in.
Attach your name to what it is that you do. Atta girl. Perfect. Lance, what do you think you're getting out of it so far?
Well, my name's Lance Larson. I'm from Arizona, down in Casa Grande, just south of Phoenix. I guess if we're talking about how I'm branding, it seems like most of the folks that I work with, they're thinking of me as a gunstock carver. The gunstock carver that's got the Weimaraner on his side all the time. So it all shows that, hey, that's that guy that carves the stocks. He's got his dog with him. You know, that's, I guess that's.
I remember that. Okay.
He tends to draw people in and get to know them that way. But just when I think I got it figured out as far as branding, there's a few other things that come up, and I think I got to tweak it a little bit more. You know, I think you're always learning.
So is it accident or is it by design?
Well, it's got to be by design if you keep trying to tweak it.
You got to. It's just coming back to it and coming back to it and paying attention. Attaboy. Okay, next. I've forgotten. What's his name? Mel.
Hey, you're taking us out of turn. It's supposed to be Nick. But anyways.
No, it's you next. On my film strip.
Well, I'm Mel Joines. I live in what would be called, I guess, a suburb of Asheville, North Carolina, up in the, they say it's God's country. But anyways, I'm a master engraver and jewelry designer, and I create elegance and simplicity.
Okay.
And tweaking your brand is an ongoing evolution.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Perfect observation for tonight. That's going to work really great. Thanks, Mel. Nick?
I'm Nick Paleschuk. I'm in Rochester, Minnesota. Been doing the engraving for about 20 years, almost 20. Been a part of the I&E network from the beginning, and I've taken classes in Utah and learning about the branding. Been trying to, working on building my branding ever since. Part of it's my logo.
Yeah, see his shirt on his shirt right there. I was just noticing. I got
the colors.
boy.
The colors of my business card, all the little things.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping, and I'm thinking people are recognizing me as eggshell carver.
Okay. I think you're right. The publicity all around it is just growing and growing and growing, Nick.
Yep, that's what I'm focused on.
Thank you much. All right, Ron.
I'm Ron Schneeberger from Jupiter, Florida, and I'm a certified calligraphy engraver, took Ken Brown's course, and a master engraver in the I&E network, and I was known for many years as the guy that did the fragrance bottles at the stores like Nordstrom and Saks. And since my life has changed in the last, I'd say 6 months to a year, my brand has changed, and I'm now more known as a motivator on Google Plus and on the internet, and then as an engraver. So my life took a turn, and so did my brand.
Good. And if you'll all notice, stand up just a little bit, Ron, and let's see your T-shirt right there. Can you see what he's wearing on his T-shirt tonight? Does that look familiar to you? That's Utah's brand right there, my boy. That governor is going to personally congratulate you, Ron, the next time you come up. It's working. It's working in Florida even. Thank you, Ron. Damarie, what's personal brand, lady?
Well, we've had several ourselves, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
From Paragrave to Paragraphics to Profitable Hobbies, and I would say how really important it is to have that kind of presence in the shows. Ours is kind of the noise that it creates, and that's fun.
But you're right. That is kind of an interesting brand effect. Yeah.
Little story to tell about just that is I was getting on a plane one day to do a show. What's this? I says, it's an engraving tool, and he looks at me and he says, do you know how to use it? And I said, I sure do. And he looks at me and gives me this big, big grin. He says, well, where's the doc? And I said, well, he's already gone on to the show, and I'm going to meet him and do the show. So it is one that is far-reaching. How many times have you been in an airport? People have said, you're Dr. Lou, you're Dr. Lou. So your branding is really important, that you get it out and have others recognize it. So these shows are very important.
Good, thank you.
And very much appreciated from all of us. Thank you.
All righty. Now, let's wade into the slide series and see if we can start matching with what some of you have commented on. And kind of consider the fact that were you to have a really good brand, it's probably going to help you more and more to succeed in the marketplace. I can't believe that anybody sitting through these 3 sessions wouldn't say, you know what, I think it's pretty important that I begin to develop a brand. So have we got the master's presentation slide up? Am I on the screen? Somebody help me.
Yes.
Okay, bingo. Like it used to be when they wanted to identify one rancher's cattle from another rancher's cattle, they branded them. So it was an identification of value and a separation from the herd, basically. And so branding as a concept needs to stay right in what we'll call focusing or identification or targeting. And since right-brain people have a nasty habit of going all over the place, part of the reason we really struggle with that is we don't like to focus our thinking and our working, and we want to stick to all things instead of zeroing in on maybe what's our best. And then I've tried in this series to help you rethink the idea that artistic branding is the product, not the person, because it is the person. And I'm going to prove it to you all night long here. It's the artist, it's the person, it's the identification, it's the face. If you consider why Google has your profile and the difference between a mark or an emblem as your profile as opposed to your face, as opposed to a warm, smiling, enjoyable, attractive, appealing face, it really, if you don't get anything more than that and begin to realize the strength of your individual position comes from what you present in the marketplace. And it is really interesting how you can either figure everything out on your own, or you can get advice and counsel by those who actually have done it. And if you're literally the kind of person that can go in that direction and start watching other people's brands, how did Stephen Covey do it? How did he move from where he was as a university professor to being the 7 Habits guy? And when you see one that you like, I think it's really significant to put it into your digital journal and start tracking things and see if you can figure out and say, well, if Charles Schulz did it, how can I do it? If Ken Brown can do it, how can I do it? If Sarah Brocknett can do it, how can I do it? When Sarah Brocknett she's the lady that was hurt in the accident with her girlfriend in a restaurant. Remember, the light hit her in the head, and she lost her senses, her 5 senses, for 18 months. And then the first sense to come back was the smell, and then she couldn't taste the food, and that really discouraged her. But eventually all her senses came back, and in that battle zone of her life of trying to bring her life back, she discovered the concept of simple abundance, because we have all we need, all of us. Simple abundance. And that became her brand. You could brand yourself like Greg Woodard has. Greg's a falconer and is the winningest person, and he's a member of the ID Network, the winningest artist in the World Wood Carving Championship ever. And to have a brand and a name and a reputation like Greg Woodard is just phenomenal. But if you'll notice, there's another piece of railroad tie tied in with this eagle. This is the one that has made him so much money and been so successful, because it's extremely memorable story of the Golden Eagle, who was fussing with him when they tried to finish the Transcontinental Railroad. So when you begin to find things that work, and then they begin to fit your brand, is there anybody here who doesn't know who this is? There's not a word up there. But there doesn't have to be a word up there. We all know this brand. We all know everything that Charles Schulz put into place, everything that Dr. Seuss put into place. Those are strong brands. You should know this one. This is Bev Doolittle. Bev Doolittle was the inventor of what's called camouflage art. And if you can see the eagles in the background here, see the eagles right through there? This is the first picture of hers, by the way, that I ever saw. My neighbor had one. Big, long portrait picture, and God, I loved it. But she started doing camouflage art, and she would do the main feature focal point, and then she would add these other elements of camouflage into it. Extremely famous for doing her work. And because it's kind of a subtle thing, I'm saying, well, you can let the world say and grow your brand by accident and evolve into it, or you can guide it, you can control it, you can somewhat fashion a brand that you want to go in the direction you want it to go instead of just an accident, okay? Personal branding is an identification, a selection, and a remembering of you. And the real engines of business, this is the things that make things work, is the trust between relationship marketing. I've been saying that concept and that term for 30 years. Desire versus needs and availability. You want to be over here in the want world rather than over here in the need world, okay? And what this does is help separate you from everyone else. You want them to see you, know what it is that you do, and remember you. And it's our job. You can't leave this up to anybody else. You've got to be the person that gradually builds the desirability and the value and the collectability of your individual work. If you've got a design and a plan, then you begin to shape what it is you sell and why. And it's done by planning and preparation. Mac Anderson's one of the best marketers in the nation, and I put up just about every quote he's got. Never forget, with every new customer, you have only one chance, just one, to make a great first impression. So you're going to leave that to accident, or is it a way for you to think it through as you begin to make a plan, get ready for it, then you create a wonderful memory and you've created a customer for life. Some of the things that I played with for a long time are the concepts and quotes that I cultivate, that I captured, that helped influence my life as I moved from dentist over to being in business of my own, an entrepreneur. My only major quote's "The miracle's in the doing," because as you do more of it, you're going to find the miracle that everyone else thinks is a miracle, but you've paid the price. Then I found having a good time is my job, and I've carried that banner ever since. To be able to do something that you're passionate about, love your work and work your love. That's the best possible means of growing old. My book's called Opportunity Intersection, and so if you're going to climb Success Mountain and you're going to figure out how to go from your as-is world to something better, maybe you ought to have a bit of a business plan as to how you're going to do that. I'm working on drawn, not driven now, because to me, the whole world's so caught up in this driven, work harder, smarter, not harder mentality, when the truth is you should be listening to your heart, listening to your soul, listening to your spirit. And there's 7 blessings matched in this process. And I play with concepts that I enjoy. If there are things that I have faith in and things that I believe in, then I will keep nudging them and moving them on into the marketplace. Now we're dropping in the direction of Jensen Innovation. This might be the best of all these years. But what you do is literally figure out, what is it that I like? What do you most want to end up with? And make that your lifestyle. And all of a sudden then you begin to build into it a concept that allows you to literally work with those things that you think are most desirable. You're in the process of uncovering who you are and what it is that you do. Probably the best thing that Tammy and I have done in all these years with Keith Hone and Gary Price was start the INE Network. The Inspiration and Encouragement Network is for those who are trying to discover they have some talent, develop and master that talent, and then learn to share it in the marketplace. Artists have a terrible time with the business and marketing side of their craft, and we're trying to destroy the starving artist syndrome. Whenever you find something that is really appealing to you, how many of you have seen a quote today on Google Plus that you really liked? It just popped you for some reason. Ron's got one almost every day. Every day there's several that he's picked up that he likes and finds appropriate for the day. But there's a lot of choices. And when something hits you a little harder than normal, I call them a zinger, you need to grab that concept and pull it into your life long enough that it will start to basically rub off. An aim in life is the only fortune worth finding. Something that you target, something that you take on and that you want to do. If the doctor does not give you a year, even if he hesitates about a month, make one brave push and see what can be done in a week. That's quite a statement, isn't it? Is that a I never give up kind of an attitude? Me can do it? Whenever I see stuff like this, I mean, I like Robert Louis Stevenson anyway. He lit up my reading career. But when you find things like this that begin to make sense to you individually, every man has a sane spot somewhere. Mine's a little harder to find than most people. And every one of us live by selling something. Every minute of every day is a trade with something and somebody. And it's okay to realize that it's okay to learn to trade better, to sell yourself better. And if you can come in and make it a steadying of a moving target, there's no question this is an ongoing evolution. But if you can start to boil it down to who are you going to become and what do you most want to trade with the world, now you're starting to move in on who you really ought to be selling and trading out there in the economy. But if you wait too long, wait for the perfect moment will pass you by. So the time is now to compose and sketch and rough out what you think might be your brand. Begin to make a plan of how to fashion it on into a real brand. Then begin to make your efforts to use it, and then measure and persist in doing. Okay? This is a pretty normal schedule for a new idea in some kind of a finished kind of a concept, then begin to see if you can make it work, and then persist in trying to make it work. It's all about growing yourself. And how I've done it is just track the things that I like. There's certain things in your life that give you energy, give you motivation, keep that fire within lit, and those are the zingers. And man, if you don't know what your favorite images are, your favorite stories are, your favorite travelers, God, these are the things that make most people's lives just hum when you know what they are, and especially not to live with someone else's. Start to track and measure and monitor your favorite threads of interest, and the more you know about yourself and those threads of interest, the more you will begin to see your own personal brand. So you're making a chart, going to make a chart of who you are and what you do, and you're going to begin to look at those kinds of things that you enjoy doing. I love to engrave crystal as much as anything. And I love to teach, and I love to write. So if you can start to sense these pieces of the puzzle, just begin to make notice of them. Watch for people that inspire you. Anybody that's in the marketplace with a personal brand ahead of you, then what you want to do is start to pay attention to Wayne Dyer, Julie Cameron, Greg Woodard, Og Mandino, Ken Brown. You know, I noticed after a while it was not a single dentist on my list. Not one. Not one. It was not too hard to see why I moved out and moved past and have begun to really zero in on the things that I most like to do. And if you can somewhat sense at all, you see in the lives of others the general pathway that you kind of want to take, then you'll start to see the direction of the rest of your life. And if you can somehow fashion out this personal dream from the things that you're bumping into, you start to literally sort out what it is you most want to take on, then all of a sudden this marketing decision process will begin to show up. Okay? You're going to start to know why you're doing what you're doing and why you're going in the direction that you're going. And as you can come up with this little bit of a plan, okay, you literally have so much advantage on everybody else in the economy because they do not know why they're going where they're going, much less the direction. And if you can come back and realize from how someone else accomplishes something and then take that concept and see if you can't wear the same coat, put on those same clothes and see, is there a way for me to have that happen to me as well? Napoleon Hill wrote the very first really highly successful positive motivational book. Exactly 100 years ago, a fortuitous meeting in Pittsburgh completely changed the life of one young man and ushered in a new philosophy of personal achievement that has served as the foundation here we go, excuse me, success movement for the last century. That young man was Napoleon Hill, a young reporter from Virginia. In the meeting in the fall of 1908, he was described it as when the hand of destiny reached out. Hill had been granted an interview with Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate, who was then the world's richest man. He dove into the question, Mr. Carnegie, to what do you attribute your phenomenal success? At 73, he opened up quickly and with wit, and his unrivaled gift of anecdote began to relate the stories of his achievements. Hill could hardly keep up with his shorthand notes when Carnegie began to expound on his and others' theories of personal achievement. Carnegie lamented, "It's a shame that each new generation must find a way to success by trial and error when the principles really are rather clear-cut." 3 days after the interview, Carnegie invited Hill back and offered him the opportunity to organize the world's first practical philosophy on individual achievement. "I'll introduce you to the men who can and will collaborate with you in its organization. Do you want the opportunity, and will you follow through if it is given to you?" Hill blurted out with characteristic enthusiasm, "Yes, I'll take the job and I'll finish it." Carnegie withdrew a stopwatch and told Hill it had taken him exactly 29 seconds to respond. Carnegie told him the offer would have been withdrawn after 60 seconds. "It has been my experience that a man who cannot reach a decision promptly cannot be depended on to carry through any decision. I've also discovered that men who reach decisions promptly usually have the capacity to move with the definiteness of purpose and other circumstances." Very well. You have one of the two most important qualities that will be needed by the man who organizes the philosophy I've described. Now I'll learn whether or not you have the second. If I give you this opportunity, you're willing to devote the next 20 years of your life to research the causes of success and failure without pay, earning your own living as you go. Can you imagine that moment? That's a Woody Searle and a Jack Solomon moment if there ever was. Hill was stunned. He assumed that Carnegie was about to subsidize him from his enormous fortune. "It's not unwillingness to supply the money," Carnegie explained. "It is my desire to know if you have in you the natural capacity to go the extra mile, that is, to render the service before trying to collect for it." Napoleon Hill met Carnegie's second test. He would go on to write The American Philosophy of Personal Achievement. For the next 20 years, he interviews such men as Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Alexander Bell, King Gillette, Theodore Roosevelt, John Rockefeller, and others. In 1928, he published The Law of Success, a compilation of success secrets, the greatest achievers of all time. For the first time in history of the world, would reveal the true philosophy upon which all success is built. From those teachings would come 9 years later, Think and Grow Rich, considered by many to be the greatest success book of all time. It offered essentials principles for improving one's health, wealth, and success. While readers today will note that the language of the book reveals 20th century mid-America, the principles expounded on successful life remain as powerful and pertinent today as they did 70 years ago. How many of you have read Think and Grow Rich? And if you did, when was the last time you read it? Do you think that maybe looking and trying to carve out your own personal brand, there would be something in that title that might really ring a bell? When you find the things that you most like zeroing in on, I love lighting fires in people's lives, and I'm a bit of a conjuring idea nut. So when I finally zeroed in on what I wanted to concentrate my name and reputation on, then things either fit with that or they don't. And once something fits, then you grab hold and begin to grow it on into something that might eventually have some serious impact in the marketplace. These courses are aimed at a person's ability to look at their own talents and then learn to share them with everyone else. And once you sort of go from the idea that there's got to be some enthusiasm here, man, I can't see promoting a name and reputation in the business for something you just hate, just because it makes money. That you might as well go be a dentist if that's what you want to do. Put yourself in the middle of this program and look at the 7 stars from amateur to the master of something. Don't let yourself get caught in here and never end up here. The goal is to zero in on something that then puts you kind of out on the leading edge of the marketplace. But if you'll look carefully at how much you've invested this year, How much have you invested in trying to develop your business side of your individual hobby? It is miracles in the doing, guys. There's no way around this. And to make a business plan out of your hobby and literally go look for this intersection of opportunity, then you start to say, okay, I'm beginning to figure this out. I know what I'm going to be doing, the general direction of the rest of my individual days. And what that does is then guide your directions and then present you in the best possible light. So instead of an accident or mud on the wall and selling a steak, you're really boiling your life down to those things that you prefer and that you want to help make your life go in this individual direction. It is a way of thinking. It is exactly like a lightning rod. You want to have it be something that no one forgets. Once they see your work and your representation, they never, ever forget you. You're either going to be able to come up with something to stir up the dramatic change in your life, or you won't. And I think if it's really important to try something new, what I do is I watch for concepts that are new. When I saw this the first time, I tore this out of a magazine and put it in my life, and you can tell it goes back a ways. A Mouse on the Rocks is that. Now, when you can see something that's clever and creative that someone else has done, pull it out and put it into your life. Keep it. Don't let it get away, because this is a creative morsel that might really begin to affect your own individual life. And all I've done is watch for these little signals that said, all right, I got to first of all figure out how the hell to even get out of dentistry. And Woody Searle helped me with that one. And then I started to make a path where nobody else had gone, and Jack Solomon's helped me with that one. I came up with the 7 steps, climbing the mountains. We got 7 mountains around this valley. And one time I began to look at the old sea captains, Christopher Columbus's method of going out and discovering something. He made a dream, then he made a map, then he did his preparing and gathering, then he launched. From the launch on, he checked his directions and solved problems along the way and learned how to share it when he got back. And these are pretty predictable ways for you to do the same thing. If you can somehow see yourself on the cover of Fast Company magazine and it was you there, what would you be doing? Who are you and what are you becoming famous for? A brand, a personal brand of you. First session we went into the theory of it and how it works. The second session we were talking about the beginning efforts to build the brand, and tonight we're going to kind of zero in on how to use this silly thing. And if you don't care, I mean, you're here. So if you're here and attending, then you do care. There's some concepts that are a little difficult to kind of wrap your arms around here, but if you don't think about it and don't make some attempts to try and develop your own personal brand, then you're basically betting the rest of your life on whether you will succeed by accident or whether you're going to begin to learn how to plan it, put it in place. It is the North Star. It is the way to figure out, I'm taking my life this way, period. And if you can put that into place and then begin to build that brand and not have the marketplace do it for you. This is somebody that doesn't know what's even going on. And if you stay in the marketplace long enough, it'll brand you. But it might not be the direction that you want it to be. And by design is the only way to do it. To try and attract constantly, 24/7, the influence that you want to go in the direction that you most want to do it. And the first session we did this batch of questions and concepts. Now we're going to try and see if we can't get beyond and start our own individual fire. We've got to grab the attention of the individual customer, but it's you that has to figure out how do I encourage them to remember who I am and begin to collect my individual work. I know that it's really this never-ending story. But I hope you by now sense some things that you've seen before. Do you remember this slide? Of course you do. If you've been in the other two sessions, this slide graphically is really easy to remember. Do you remember this slide? You should say the same as well. Once your brain has been hit with a graphic image that makes some sense to you, it's really quite hard to forget it. Now, I've had my brand here. I established Success Mountain on Google Plus 3 years ago when it first got started. And I've stayed with Success Mountain for the entire 3 years. I've got 2,300 followers and a little over 1 million views now. But what I'm playing with is really targeted. I'm not after the massive numbers of followers and views because I'm not so certain that's money-wise and income-wise significant. The thing that I think so important about Google Plus is it's a marketing vehicle where the algorithms of Google match you with like-minded people. If Google's algorithms think that what you're doing matches with what someone else's interest is, they'll put you together and cross paths with your streams. And to me, that's just absolutely huge. That means I got 2,300 people that know about Lou Jensen and kind of what we're doing, okay? We're profitable hobbies. We've got everything going for us in this direction. I would love one day that a hobbypreneur really starts to make a difference in the marketplace. And if you'll just be okay with the fact that it's a challenge, it's okay to sit here tonight with me and still not really know what your brand is, but it's not okay to stay that way. And don't expect somebody else to do it. No one else can. And if you don't pick a pathway for where you're headed and stay put with that pathway, you will not make it. It takes 8 years in most business concepts to go from amateur to the master of something. Watch for these kinds of quotes and then push them into your meaning of your life. Success is not measured by what the person accomplishes, but by the opposition they've encountered. It's okay to go up against overwhelming odds and still pull it off. I don't know how many times I've shown this slide in 8 years, but I'll bet you've seen it often. Because this is the kind of concept where people will understand that it's okay to zero in on it. Go to work and make it work. It is a primary tool of small business. It's the only way I know to separate the value of you from the herd. And you got to be the one that does the branding. It facilitates the trading because you're rememberable. It's going to make things work faster and faster and better and better. Jay, can you come on and talk about what you were telling me in the green room about the calls you got today?
Yeah, today was kind of a fun day. I received 4 phone calls from different individuals to know if I could, do some work for them. I said, yeah, sure, find out what they wanted and all that. And then I, just out of curiosity, I guess just a habit of mine, especially with a first-time person, I ask them, well, if you don't mind, how did you find out about me? And every one of them told me that they had been referred to me from either the local laser engraver in town, the local trophy engraver in town, or the jewelry store engraver.
So your brain must be working a little, huh, Jay?
Yeah, it must be working at least a little bit.
A little bit. Those are fun days, aren't they? It's all of a sudden a signal that something's working.
That's the kind of day that just a smile on your face that won't go away.
Yeah, attaboy, Jay. If you can look at the difference between artists who do poorly in the marketplace and those who do better, you'll start to realize that they have a little more business trading savvy than their artistic counterparts. It's understanding who you are and what you're trading and what works best. Don't have the wrong tool for the job. We've talked about this image often, or worse still, no tool at all. We can't stay in this I don't know what the brand category is and not have this sequence in place. Who are you and what are you trying, what are you trading? What do you most want to become known for? This is the direction you're headed. You're not here yet, but you kind of like the pathway that you're taking. If you start realizing that you're beginning to be known for something you don't want to be, then you really got to start worrying more about the brand. How many of you mentally remember this picture set? You probably don't remember the name of our master, who this is, who this represents, but I know you remember the photograph. I've shown it to you 3 times now. This is the 3rd time. But instantly, if this were to come back in, or you were to see this, cross paths with this on the web or on Google+, you would remember that you had actually seen it. Our ability to recognize and identify images is really profound. So to build your brand and begin to see if it's working, you're testing the marketplace with your preferences. You're literally laying it out in front of humanity to see how do people react to what graphic images and graphic presentations and concepts that help them then remember you. This is the first place to making it operational. Test it. Put it into gear. See if there's people out there that they bump into you and then they remember who you are and the direction that you're going. Then watch for other people and see what they've done. When you can see the individual brand of someone else and it looks as though it's helping their business, try and study it. Try and put it in your life, in your journal, and see if you can't figure out how they're making it work. Okay? It's really significant to stay right on what you prefer, what you're drawn to. And the building of the brand now is the constant attention to it, to continue to try and grow it, and then begin to share yourself with the world. If you recognize this color and this pattern quickly and know what you're looking at, the odds are that half the economy also know what that is and what it represents, and they identify with it and like it as well. So color and pattern are huge in this identification of personal branding. Never seen it fail yet. I really like the people that like malachite. Since 1832, Henry Newton and William Windsor introduced the first moist watercolors to the world. Reputation for supreme quality stemmed from the artist's watercolor range. More than 170 years later, there still is manufactured the most desirable watercolor medium to create unparalleled colored water range that offers artists the widest and most balanced choice of pigments. Can you imagine having that kind of reputation and brand 170 years later? It should be a dream come true for you. It should be something you just literally, you desire, want to develop a good brand and then use it the rest of your days. It's planting seeds that you get to express yourself. Your brand is your art. And it becomes the one thing that you can go out in the marketplace and plant those seeds and plant those seeds and plant those seeds. And then it begins to grow into this list of ideas that fit with your brand. Every day, I can't see how you can watch Google Plus every day and not find a post. Something that just pops you good, that you shouldn't then keep track of, and over a period of time begin to see, God, that's who I am. That's what I really like. Those are the expression of my personal preferences. And don't let anyone else mess with your head here. It should be what you think, what you want to zero in and not someone else that does it. When I bumped into Gary Price, and Gary let us use his Synergy artwork to kind of be the brand and the logo identification for the I&E Network, I just can't, I love the concept. And now to match the Handmade Crusade, the future of handmade things in and around the I&E Network and its growth in the long term, this concept's going to be around long after we're gone. And I'm working hard now in my life to see if I can't make that actually happen. If you bother to notice the patterns that you prefer, the graphics and the quotes that you prefer, you're constantly trying to stretch your own individual thinking. If you'll see if you can't understand and grab onto the keys of your own perception, how you think about things is how you largely will become. Watch carefully for the things that you like and then gradually trim the things that you dislike. And then test the water a little bit. Give it a try. See how it comes across. Tracking the numbers are the responses that you get of people that can identify with you and your brand or not. If you'll bother to take anything that's appealing to you and slip it over into your personal digital journal. When you see a concept like this, okay, personalized expression of love, and they'll do the engraving for you and put it on the ring. If you don't have your personal journal set up, this is mine on the web, and it's a personal, private community. So here's how, this is my community to teach you how to do it, how to set it up, and then all you got to do is very quickly repost anything that you want to hang on to that you've seen on Google Plus for the year. What a valuable tool to scan back through now, to look at your personal preferences for an entire year. Anything that comes along or shows up in the marketplace that you want to hang on to, and it's a kind of an idea that you could maybe chase a little bit, or footprints in the sand, these things will be lost. If you don't see them later and they don't stay in your journal, they're going to be gone. And each time I see something like that that really pops me a lot, I try to pull them into my individual life and say, okay, maybe I'm not going to create the eyes of precious moments, but those eyes have made millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. And I'm not after something with eyes, I'm after longevity. When you begin to see something crafted like this one, and realize that this could really be a neat concept for a piece of jewelry. But if you don't throw it into your journal, it's going to be gone. I don't know of anything that's influenced me more than Disney as a concept, and to realize they did one character after another character after another character. But boy, are they strongly a Disney flavored family. There's a brand from Disney that's just unbelievable. And every time I see anything that then fits into that whole concept, I think, oh, God, that's a pretty neat idea right there. When you spot those kinds of concepts and realize what's going on in the economy, can't get to it right now, but I sure as hell don't want to lose it as a concept. So I take what I'm trying to build in my world and go from my imagination reality to literally come up with the golden triangle, which allows me to kind of guard and pay attention to the things that I really do care about. You all know my number one problem is too many irons in the fire. And when you see this concept that helps you stay put, you find something that helps you do that, stay with it, targeting your individual efforts and continuing to pound on those nails until you turn them into something. You begin to have a concept that then starts to give you value to the direction and the purpose of why you're going in the direction you're going. The last thing I can do tonight to help you is to talk in terms of watching for a mentor. This is someone you have access to that's kind of going in the direction you're kind of thinking you want to go. To me, this is pure wisdom. And every time I've needed help, I've been able to find who could probably help me with not opinion. These are people that have actually done with some experience sharing and helping you to see your own pathway. And the degree you can find a mentor and stay close to those relationships are probably the degree you'll find success in your own life. Learn to trust your intuition and imagination. Things come to all of us when we need them. And that's a kind of an oddball statement to make from a business and a scientific perspective, but I think it's true. I think you literally will get the answers you need when you're struggling with the questions. The degree you can pour it on in those directions and stay with it. My show last week of 38 years, anniversary show, and thank you for everybody that participated with that show. It's a lot of fun to sit in this chair and know all I've done is continue with my personal threads of interest for a very long time. And to the degree you can kind of fashion the fabric of your own tapestry that's going to one day define your own individual life, you're doing fine. There's no reason to wander off and try anything else or do something new, because it will sustain you. If it has this long, it will sustain you from now on as well. The miracle really is in the doing, guys. If you understand what you're doing and you continue to verify that and make that progress, then I think you've got a really good shot of developing a personal brand that will one day mean a lot. Now, where is the one? Oh, there it is, right there. Anybody that's got an individual question? We're fairly close to the hour. Anybody want to make a comment?
I wanted to tell you how much that egg means to me. The one that was in the last picture.
Last slide? Tell them why.
Yeah. Well, that was an egg from my mom in appreciation for my mother. Those are her tatting patterns. And
that design's called Tatting Dreams. After
and I miss her every day. Yep.
Kind of fun.
So thank you for showing that. That's my favorite.
I like the fact that it represents kind of life's most meaningless material. There's no material on earth more worthless than an eggshell. And yet we've just stayed on it and pounded that nail and kept going for all these 38 years now, and it's becoming something. It really has reached all around the world now. It's a concept. That's a lot of fun. So each of you...
Well, you've got eggs all around the world, too.
Yes, and I've got 14 pieces of crystal going to China. I was trying to calculate last night how many crystal pieces I've done for the university that are all over the world now. Got 14 more going out next week. So,
are you keeping track of what countries they're going to? All the pieces that you've done?
I have. That would be fun, wouldn't it? Make a map. There's a pretty good concept right there.
Yeah.
Tammy saw something that I've not even thought of. And if I had a map and then I just went, I've done crystal here, I've done crystal here, I've done engraving here, I've done engraving there. That'd be fun. That'd be a fun thing to track. So when you find things like that now, pretty easy to forget what that suggestion was unless you drop it back into your journal and keep track of it somehow. It really is hard for most of us to keep our hands involved in a particular concept unless it's close enough to us and keep nudging us to the point where you actually get something done. I got 2 emails this week from people who saw our shows, are not involved with us, but they now want to know how to get a book published. And all of you who are part of the network know I'm constantly trying to nudge you in the direction of getting a book done and getting a book published. But they spotted that kind of thing, and something inside is whispering, what I ought to do, what I ought to do is write a book about my experience. And I'm thinking, well, okay, can we help somebody do that? Can we keep them kind of on the molding, shaping, fashioning side of getting that kind of a project actually done? And how would that enhance a brand? Could a book that you publish and write about you and your stories enhance your own individual personal brand? Ron, of all who are playing here tonight, Ron's on Google Plus pretty aggressive now, getting a hell of a reputation for being in the marketing and media side. Ron, can you see how important it is that you get your brand tightened up?
It's very important. People, like I said, people know me now. You know, they don't know me from my engraving. They know me as being a motivator and somebody who can inspire others, and that's what they're looking at me at. You know, because of, I guess, what I do. And it wasn't by happen chance. You and I had talked about a direction, and you forced me into it, and I wasn't sure whether it was going to work. But it was planned, and we designed it, and I just put it into practice. You didn't do it for me. I had to do it. Yeah. But you kept booting me in the butt and saying, Ron, that's the direction you got to head. And you saw something that I didn't see, and it's working.
Yeah, it's working. It's working extremely well. Now, if you continue to enhance that, Ron, and you drive the boat, that's all a personal brand is to help you stay focused on what your preferences are. Here's where you are, here's where you dream of being, is your brand of your business efforts taking you in that direction. Because that's what it is. It's the North Star. It's the guidepost. It's the way of saying, hey, I'm going that way. And not let everything else that comes along entice you off in another direction or confuse the circumstance enough that you can't get something accomplished. It is the North Star. And so when you see it effectively in somebody else's life somehow, don't say to yourself, well, I could never be a Dr. Seuss, or I could never be a Charles Schulz. Go, you know what? There's something important about what they've done and how they've done it, that if I can help figure out more of how I can do something like that, bam, you got the same kind of potential in the marketplace. Huge, huge.
I want to know, Ron, I want to know, how satisfying is it becoming for you?
It's unbelievable. I never would have thought this would have been a turn in my life that can get me someplace, and I haven't looked at anything monetarily or anything like I did when I started engraving. But I don't know where this is going to go, but it's satisfying that people all over the world know me. If I pop into some place after a show or something, and I'm invited in, and I get in, everybody in the film strips, oh, there's Ron. And it's like, these are people from Japan, Germany, England, Italy, and it's Canada, like everywhere. They all know Ron Schneeberger, and I didn't know this, but they all knew me before I realized they knew me.
So what it is your time to give back?
That's
to
the way
humanity?
That's the way I look at it. I told Dr. Lou I'm writing my legacy one day at a time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
May I say, we are all so very proud of you. And one day on the phone, you know, I told you, are you sure you didn't write that one that day just for me? Remember that?
I get that. Yes, and I get
all the time.
I get messages on Google Hangout messages from other people that said the same thing. Ron, thank you for posting that because I needed that today. And just like you did, how many times have I called you and said, Tammy, I just thought of you and I had to give you a phone hug, and you said, you don't know how much today I needed that phone hug.
That's right. That is so true. You have a sixth sense about you that it's, and I will tell you, Mel has done it, Jay has done it, Ed has done it, and I understand that. It's that sixth sense, but it's so thrilling to see because I know of your personal what's the right word, Lou?
Struggles.
Struggles. That's the better way. Because other than that, and not being able to go out and sit long periods of time to do the engraving now, but oh my goodness, you have been so far-reaching now that they're, like you say, you're all over the world, and I just am so proud of you, and I'm so thrilled for you.
Thank you.
Coming along great. And the part that I think so helpful is we've wrestled with the concepts of what is a Hangout, what is a webinar, how can we use it. I mean, remember when we all struggled to first, we couldn't even get on and stay on. We didn't know when we would be in or when we would be bumped out. We didn't know if we got locked out. I couldn't figure out how the hell to get back in. I mean, we've had all of those kinds of technical issues that we've wrestled with, but it's getting in a groove now where it's really pretty productive. And it's a time where all of you, as you want to begin to develop your own brand and begin to publish or produce things like I've been doing for a while, you should be beginning to do that very thing. Some of you got that much ammunition now that you can eventually share. So from an amateur to the master of something, and once you've mastered something and learned how to share it, then you have something to package. You've got a concept to share and to trade with the marketplace. And Ron's doing it. Just remember the slide tonight that said, don't worry about whether it's making the money. Would you be the kind of person that would be willing to pursue that direction without the reward up front? That's how Napoleon Hill did it. I think if you can end up, Ron, anywhere near the same kind of marketing and influential position as Napoleon Hill, that's not all bad, Mr. Schneeberger. Not bad at all.
May I say something?
You bet, John.
I might as well say it now because I was talking. We were talking about Ron. Anyway, some years ago, I don't remember what the occasion was, but I had been talking with another person, and Ron was in the conversation, and I didn't know him hardly at all, and I made a remark, and he said, Joni, he said, I'd know your work anywhere. He said, I know your style, and I was totally blown by that. I had no idea what he was talking about.
Not cool. That's the neatest thing.
I know he meant it as a compliment.
You start to see that signal, just like Jay's conversation tonight, presenting the fact that Jay's only been going at this 2 or 3 years, and yet to get 4 phone calls in one day referring business to him because they now know who he is and what he does.
Yeah.
And so his brand is beginning to evolve almost without even realizing the fact that you've got a brand. Now, can Jay enhance that? Absolutely. That's what this show every year is about. Every year at this same time of the year, I'm going to zero in on personal branding. And hopefully your individual brands will have made a lot of progress in the coming year. Okay? All right, troops. I think we covered it pretty well tonight. Now, questions on emails, phone calls into TAM. If you don't have your damn business plan done, will you please start there? Get a business plan done. Gang, you just can't manage the business with where you are to where you hope to be without a plan of action. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Tam and I spent quite a bit of time today talking about the next business and marketing exposure tools that we're going to try and put into the machinery of the company and begin to play more aggressively with the new marketing vehicles that Google really represents. And the second you can start to zero in on what the content should be. How do you write a book? How do you come up with the concept? What should be the beginning? How should the content evolve? And then what should be the really strong final portion at the end? Those are business plans. Those are concepts that either fit your overall plan, or eventually you will begin to see that it doesn't fit, which may be the greatest advantage of all, is to just not wander all over the place. What you're trying to do is really zero in on what the direction and pathway for what you want to have your art and your work represent and take. All right, troops, appreciate your participation, and we'll see you tomorrow night. We'll do a laboratory and do some more talking about the subject, okay?